Comedy, I love comedy. I love smiling. I love being happy. May not be a happy person, but I like being happy.
Take it to the bank.
Yeah. Please. Bring something to the bank for me. I need money. Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent, big ugly himself, Omari Ellis Feo Grande on YouTube, and I am back for some more movie talk, and of course, I can't do this alone. I am joined, as usual, by one of my best friends in the world, El Director himself, Bill Smith.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Oh, man, it's going great. It's a great evening. Another time to talk about some things that we haven't seen or one or the other hasn't. This guy, in particular, me, hasn't seen this week. I haven't seen the movie that we're talking about, and I know I'm kind of talked myself in a circle there, but the bottom line is this is a show where we trade movies back and forth that one or the other hasn't seen. Last week was The Godfather. This week, Bill went ahead and suggested a movie to me. You've already seen the title, but go ahead and let them know what it is, Bill.
Yes, it is the 2014 film What We Do in the Shadows, written and directed by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi, you may know from recently winning a Oscar for Best Screenplay for a film called Jojo Rabbit, and of course, directing many Thor films that you know and maybe love.
Yes, I do know him of the Thor films.
Jermaine,
and I can see where the comedic aspect of the Thor films kicked in, because he probably started with fucking like Ragnarok, or at the very least with those little like skits before Ragnarok of Thor in the real world doing shit, because that very much fits the comic stylings of this movie, those little skits.
Very much so. Very much so. He also voices Korg, the Rock Man.
I could see that.
So yes, this film is kind of in my this guy hasn't seen pantheon that I am opening up to you. This is kind of my step into the journey that could be Taika Waititi for you, outside of the Marvel universe. And of course, this is done with a frequent collaborator of his, Jermaine Clement, who, if you're a fan of or know of Flight of the Conchords, the old HBO show, and
I know of them,
and Real Rock Band. Jermaine Clement is one of the Flight of the Conchords. Taika was also a creative force behind the scenes for that show. Directed most of the episodes, helped write plots and songs and things like that.
So he's been doing stuff for a minute.
Yes, absolutely. So What We Do in the Shadows is a mockumentary film of if vampires existed in our life. The little byline here is Viago, Deacon, and Vladislav. Those are our main character vampires who are struggling with the mundane aspects of modern life, like paying rent, keeping up with the chore wheel, trying to get into nightclubs, and overcoming flatmate conflicts.
Yes.
This film stars Taika. It stars Jermaine. It also stars, I just had his name, and I apologize for you, sir, Johnny Brugh. And many other role players.
I recognize the Jermaine Clement name from the credits of the movie. So when you said that, I'm like, I think he was actually in this movie. Was he Vlad? Or was he the other one?
Yes, he was Vladislav.
Okay. Vladislav was also the most familiar looking to me out of the cast. So I was like, I thought he was somebody else when I very first saw him, and then I saw him later and went, no, he can't be that guy. But yeah, he's cool.
So I saw this film years ago, not when it was brand new, but around maybe a couple years after, maybe around 2016, from a fan of Flight of the Conchords, who I wasn't a big Flight of the Conchords fan, but
Same.
we shared similar sensibilities, and he was like, well, this is a movie that I just watched that was really funny, and I really enjoyed it. And since then, there has been 2 TV shows created to spin off this world. One titled directly What We Do in the Shadows, currently running on FX. And then there's another show that follows the 2 police officers that we meet around like Act 3.
Of all the things.
Yeah, and it's a mockumentary. It's like a Cops, but in a reality where there's werewolves and vampires and all of these things. So I've since become big fans of those shows, and then really big fans of Taika Waititi's personal content. I almost submitted Hunt for the Wilder People today. We were almost watching that, but I decided to pull back and go with this one because it's right there in the sweet spot of after he was just making kind of weird indie films, to put it lightly. I don't know.
Okay.
Like very specific films that are not would not be broadly enjoyed.
Gotcha.
I think they're just more they're of a specific taste, and this is kind of his start into studio features and getting a little bit more broad with his voice and his message. So I decided to choose this one, and was really excited to send it your way. Your initial reaction was to have you seen What We Do in the Shadows? It was no, I do not watch much horror. At times, this film has a little bit of some jump scary horror things.
It does, but it's obviously not really a horror movie.
Right. It could be called a dark comedy.
Yeah.
I think
that's the best way.
So what were you anticipating before you sat down there?
All right, so yes, as to why I hadn't seen it, it sounded like a horror title, and as we just mentioned, not that much into horror. Not that I won't watch horror movies. It's just, yes, I'll admit I can get scared pretty easily, and I don't necessarily like being scared. But with this one, once I, at the response of his response to what do we do in the shadows is I haven't seen horror. I'm like, well, not expecting horror, that's for sure. Not exactly sure what to expect. However, I saw the little thing about vampires in the little description. I didn't read the description entirely because I still wanted to see the movie thing. But then I also saw like genre horror, comedy. And I'm like, okay, it's more of a comedy than it is a horror. It's probably a comedy about horror things. I don't know exactly what to expect. Sorry, can't exactly remember what I was expecting. I did not expecting a mockumentary about vampires. I know that was one of the initial reactions was like, so it's a mockumentary about vampires.
Terrible vampires.
Terrible vampires at that. Yes. But once I saw comedy, Taika Waititi, I had forgotten exactly what you had told me Taika had directed, but I remember that it was a name that I became more familiar with in recent times. And when you mentioned the Thor just now, I had to have seen something of his that I liked. And sure enough, I saw it. I'm like, okay, this is the dry this should be fun. I expected to have fun. Comedy, I love comedy. I love smiling. I love being happy. I may not be a happy person, but I like being happy.
Take it to the bank.
Yeah. Please. Bring something to the bank for me. I need money.
So once the movie started going, what were you catching from it?
There was the mockumentary thing, but I'm looking at my initial reaction, and I see can't remember, lol. And I don't know why I put that. I literally can't remember why I typed I can't remember.
And then laughed about it.
Yeah, and I saw this movie last night. I think it probably caught me. Well, one of the things I will know, the music that starts at the beginning, one of the first tracks you hear is this like 80s synth sounding thing, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck is this? And it's like, production studios. Oh, that's got nothing to do with the movie. All right. Actually, there might be a line near the beginning where the guy says something along the lines of, I can't remember, which is why I specifically put that ellipsis there. And I just thought it was a good first laugh that set the tone. I'm like, oh, so this is a mockumentary about vampires. You got the stuff. You had the weirdly awkward beginning where he's just going around the house talking to people, and I don't want to use the term British comedy for shit that's not British comedy. I already did that with
we know
Hotel.
That's your catch-all for like slow, dry,
awkward humor,
punchline-less.
Yeah, just the scene itself is the joke, not necessarily funny dialogue. The dialogue's funny because of the way the people are reacting. Just like you said, the dryness. And I saw the dry humor, that kind of deal. And I'm like, oh, it's one of these style of movies. Okay. All right. And I'm happy that in my adult life I have seen enough of these type of things to where it can be funny for me. Because, when you're younger, you hear other people like, oh, I don't get that. Them people weird with what they find funny. No, I'm laughing my ass off. It was that fucking Vladislav had me cracking up from the get-go. I even put I shouldn't like Vladislav, because at first I typed I like Vladislav, and then he immediately is like, we should get some slaves. And I'm like,
damn.
I shouldn't like Vladislav, and I'm like, maybe I'll just delete that line. But then he had a couple other lines, and then he had a couple other lines where it's like, boy, this guy's technically not a good person.
No.
And I was like,
they called me Vladislav.
The poker. Yeah, no, Vladislav the poker was when I typed I shouldn't like Vladislav, but the way he delivers the lines and everything, it's just funny. He's just a funny dude. He looks like your stereotypical vampire, but he got a little bit overweight. Not like fat or anything, but
right.
Most vampires are like, you're stereotypical at least, super like buff, sex symbol looking. He looks like a guy who used to be one.
Yeah, this is not Interview with a Vampire, True Blood, Twilight. It's not those vampires.
But yeah, I loved it. I loved it with them flying at each other when they were mad at the beginning. Do the dishes. I don't want to do dishes.
And then they start floating. Yeah. I was thinking about it this round that's it feels like a really good special effect.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel the wire work in there, and it's because it's a handheld documentary style. It's like that's.
I will say it didn't seem like a 2014 movie, but in a good way. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, it was obviously it filmed earlier than 2014 if it got released in 2014, but it wasn't filmed that much earlier than 2014 with the way things looked. It looked more like it is an older movie of the same type of genre, and it was something that by 2014, with the exception of, well, actually no, because that's when the reality TV shows started coming, or not reality, but the TV shows that the whole premise of the show is it's a mockumentary about something. Your offices, your Parks and Recs, your family house. What? Oh shit! Modern Family.
Family House. It's Family House.
Kind of shows your family houses. So I was gonna say that kind of thing had gone away, but at the same time it hadn't. It just became part of regular TV at that point. But it seemed more like a TV show than a movie in premise.
It does kind of, and I'm gonna be honest. In this watching, because the What We Do in the Shadows television series is now maybe in its 4th season.
Okay.
And it goes much harder on the jokes. Like, I would say there's actual jokes in there.
Gotcha.
And I think it serves best as a television show, to be honest. This is a film that diminishes a little bit each time I watch it.
I can see that. That is the downside to that kind of comedy. It's not necessary because it's not your punchline thing, your so and so. There's just catching you off guard, and I expect things to go this way, but clearly they're playing on that. This is a parody. This is more of a parody of the thing you always see than it is that the subverted expectations aspect obviously diminishes.
Yes.
With rewatching.
Yeah, so there's that, like, because and I think it doesn't help that the television show has shown such a great model of this format, and Taika Waititi has only moved on to direct amazing movies.
Yes.
That I think.
Did he do Blood and Thunder as well?
There was a part of me that was about halfway through and was like, should have gone another direction, but
nah,
I'm happy with my choice.
I'm happy with your choice too. Spoilers, but no, it was good. Real quick, did Taika do Blood and Thunder as well, like the newest Thor movie?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but
I haven't seen it.
Fair enough. But yeah, all the stuff from the beginning, just lots of lol insert thing here. Like, lol, let's go to the vampire club. It's the only vampire club in town. And then you get in and there's like 5 people there. Yeah. I'm like expecting at least.
Well, it cuts straight from a line of like, it's the hottest night scene, if you want, for a vampire in Shrewsbury or whatever town they're in, and then it immediately hard cuts to the 4 of them sadly dancing in the middle of an empty bar.
And again, that's where that whole subverted expectations things goes, because you think Vampire Blood or Vampire Club, you think shit like Blade, the first movie. Where
Right.
they had that rave and then the sprinklers go off that are just blood sprinklers and they're like or at the very least fucking speaking of True Blood, Eric's place, where didn't he have like a club too?
Yeah.
Early on?
Yeah.
Where he just sat on his throne looking like a fucking boss.
Yep.
Long haired Eric, best Eric. I'm just being honest. And the first mention of the Beast just I'm like, we got the Beast. But yeah, I had seen the Boschetti joke before. I had heard the Boschetti pronunciation thing. I'm like, so that's where Boschetti comes from, and people specifically saying Boschetti, because I know I've had some friends who tried to meme about that. Oh, you're eating some Boschetti, and I'm like, I don't know why you're saying it like that. You probably saw some freaking like I can hash cheeseburger shit online and said it because I have a friend that if it's a meme, he's going to quote it within like the next time I see him, and he's going to quote it like 8 times. So I just assumed it was something along those lines, but I saw it here. I'm like, okay, I get it. I had thought Jackie was gonna kill him when she was cleaning her bathroom from the like big thing that had happened there. She's like cleaning her bathroom, pissed off, already been told she can't do anything. I'm like, oh, she gonna kill all these motherfuckers. That's how this is gonna end. Next scene. Oh, never mind. She's a vampire. All right.
Yep.
But yeah, just a lot of things through there. Just, of course, the Beast turns out to be his ex.
Right.
Spoilers.
And she's just a normal vampire female. Like we've been seeing drawings that look like an 8 foot tall mole rat with
like a dick on its chest.
Yeah.
I'm like, who the hell is this Beast guy? He's gonna be awesome. Nah, it's just some chick vampire. That's his ex. I'm like, of course it is. Yep. I should have seen that coming. Like, of course it's the Beast. I also love Stu, which everybody does.
You gotta love Stu. Stu's just great. He's just a great guy. He's cool to be around, and
you see Nick lying just to like, you don't hear anything I do, and Stu just kind of looks away. I'm like, oh, Stu's just listening to him. I don't think he actually hypnotized him one bit. He's just sitting there. He's like, now he can't hear me. We're very much vampires and do so and so, so and so, so and so. You can hear me now. Huh? Oh, okay. Hey. Yeah, it's crazy about so and so, right? Yeah, I guess. And just as the movie keeps going, they like kick Nick out, and then they're like, "You brought a human into this house." But Stu's good. Stu's cool. Yes, Stu is great. Stu's fantastic. But still, I guess we'll strike that from the record. That was fine. They brought Stu to it, and he just chill. He never betrayed him. No, nothing. He just stayed chill for the whole movie, which
he protected him.
That's what. Yeah, he fucking standout moment thing. But yeah, he fucking. I'm like, Stu's fucking awesome. I'm like, let's go, Stu. Like, fuck this. I don't care if I'm surrounded by vampires and zombies and every other kind of thing that wants me dead. My friends are under attack, so fuck you.
If we're moving into standout moments, I think about this movie, and I think about the two times we see Viago, Taika's character, trying to bite someone.
Oh yes, the artery.
Yeah, and every single time clipping the artery, and just like a geyser.
Like, oh shit, oh fuck it. Because he like tries to put the like newspaper down and stuff.
Right.
How are you doing? Oh, it's a sad life, blah blah blah. But at least I get to go to vacation here, there. Ah, yes. Well. Oh fuck. Oops. Oh god, hit the main artery.
Yeah. Oh, and then we were talking about Stu. I was gonna say as another standout moment. Multiple times we meet the local werewolf pack, which Stu eventually ends up becoming a member of.
Yep, and in classic, kind of like what I was talking about with Godfather last week, right when I typed something about liking a character, they fucking die. I was so mad. I had just typed Stu is awesome because he had just did that thing. I'm like, I'm typing this. Stu is awesome. Next scene, werewolf attack. Rip cameraman. Rip Stu, sad face. Obviously, he turned out not to be Rip. Good. And I was also like, poor doggy that got blamed. Just grab a random dog. You did this. Look how it's hungry. Look, he's going back for seconds. So I'm like, oh, this poor fucking dog. Just got blamed for all of this. Kanislav was hilarious when he turned. They talked about like ever since his thing with the Beast, he can't fully transform.
Oh yeah, right? He never gets the faces right.
So he transformed into a cat and it still had his face just. That was, I'm like, all right, that's just funny.
Yeah, they probably could have used that a few more times. I would have been fine with that.
Also, another thing that wasn't necessarily like funny, but I loved the way they did it. When he read that letter that said the Beast was the keynote speaker or guest of honor at their thing, his veins started popping on his head for Vladislav. And I just really like the way they did that vein effect. Like, you just literally see it, like, start spreading on his head. And I'm like, that was really well done for how low budget this film is. Or the vibe. It gives off a low budget vibe.
Yeah.
But it's got some pretty decent
does.
effects.
I would think that this is at the point in their careers where they were getting produced by people. Mm-hmm. Like, that they weren't having to go, like, really dirt poor independent.
Yeah.
But it might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been still in that, because this was early. This was right after Flight of the Conchords and right before they're both trying to make a jump into film.
Yeah. So it was great. There was some, like I said, it was funny the whole way through. The silver necklace thing early on where he's talking about Catherine. He's like, but unfortunately she gave me a necklace of pure silver. And then he puts it on anyway. Just to... Yeah. That's about as much as I can handle. Why'd you put it on?
He's such a sweet-souled vampire.
He is. He's a sweet-souled vampire. Obviously, Vlad was a dick in his first life. But he's hilarious now just because who he is. And sometimes those kind of characters, the relics of an older time, they still can necessarily... Like, because overall, Vlad was pretty chill. He had his moments, and he obviously, like you said, he had his old ideologies. Why don't we get slaves? Obviously, that's not a good feature for anybody to say. However, with the actions the character has for the majority of the movie, he don't really seem like he's that bad a dude.
No.
And Deacon just hating Nick the whole time. And then again, I started hating Nick too. I'm like, dude, Nick, you ruined everything. Stop it. I know it's funny to have the guy run around yelling, I'm Twilight. But yeah, him talking to the fucking vampire hunter and being like, I'm a vampire. Oh, really? I'm a vampire hunter. Oh, sure you are. Motherfucker, you really a vampire? You don't think there's actual vampire hunters? I was sad when Peter died. I was like, no, he was just fun. Obviously, he didn't have that much depth to his character. He was literally just a weird-looking one that did shit on his own because he was older than all of them. And I got that.
Like 6,000 years old?
Like 6,000 to 8,000 years old or some shit. So they kept him in the basement, and they're like, don't let him out. He's a little too far gone. And then sure enough, when Nick leaves, and they like, well, Peter got him. Oh. Well, damn. Who let Peter out? Oh. It's like 2 months later. Now Nick's a vampire. And I'm like, that is not where I saw that going. I thought Nick was fucking dead. Because you let the 8,000-year-old vampire get out. But he turned somebody else in that house into a vampire, too. Was it Deacon?
I think there might be an unspoken thread that all of them are turned by Peter.
Okay. Which is why they were all as affected when he died.
Right. Like maybe they all had little stories straight to camera.
Uh-huh.
But a few of them got cut for time. But I think it was Deacon who voiced that Peter
turned him.
Turned him, yeah.
Also, just the idea, the majority of them just having those familiars that they never turn.
Right.
Because Deacon was being an asshole to Jackie by constantly ignoring her, but then you see, what's his name, go out of his way to contact his 90-year-old former servant just to let him know he fucked up with the packaging. And the guy's like, sir, I'm 90 years old now. You said you would give me eternal life. Oh, I'm sorry, bad connection. I'm like, damn. Like, note to self, don't be a vampire familiar.
Right. I mean, Obviously, yeah.
Either die or become a vampire. Like, all right, look, man, either kill me now or make me a vampire. I'm not working for you because under some false pretense that you're gonna make me a vampire someday.
I'd just be making vampires. If I was a vampire, I'd have a racket.
Yeah,
because it's food and potentially money. Like,
oh yeah, you can definitely.
$1,000, and I'll make you a vampire. And then guess what? I don't even have to actually make them a vampire if I don't want to. But I probably will because I'm a good guy.
Once you get your sizable enough army, you just give them the promise and it don't work out. It's like, okay, well,
why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just make a fuck ton of vampires?
Take over the fucking underground scene, like the fucking.
I guess it's limiting your food supply.
Also, you raise with more vampires. I think because there's that thing, the whole Vampire the Masquerade and all that stuff. If you ever heard that franchise, I think that's part of the whole masquerade thing. Is if too many people know, if there's too many vampires, too many people know about too much of a chance people knowing about vampires. Which, much like with the movie, now you got your vampire hunters tracking you down, and life's a lot harder for you as a vampire. When it doesn't necessarily need to be, but it kind of is, because you can only be out at night and all that to begin with. Yeah, that's the only thing I don't like about the vampire thing. That whole sunlight kills you thing. That's it's the one weakness, but it's a major one.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, because. Even though I'm like more nighttime oriented, the fact that it can't come in through the window, like, I can't have the blinds open without.
Yeah, that's like one of the opening scenes, right? Is Viago being like, "So this is always a big moment for me," and he's slowly peeling back the curtain, hoping he's not about ready to burn to death.
Just nighttime. Oh, that would suck if, let's say, your alarms, like, the power blips and your alarms, like, still kind of goes off, but the clock is behind or early or whatever. Right. And then you just, 8 p.m. It's always dark, regardless of time of year. At 8 p.m.,
yeah, man, not like a couple of weeks ago, it was still sunny here at 8 p.m.
Also true.
You gotta adjust them clocks.
Yeah. You gotta make sure you know it's fucking dark out.
Right. You better have like an almanac with you at all times.
And like when he found Deacon sleeping at the computer, he's like, "What are you doing? You're just sleeping here with the window open. You might best off to die. No, go into this closet." He's like, "You gotta think carefully about that." Yeah, you're right. I'm like, yeah, I don't fall asleep at the computer like for a whole night as it is, but I could see that happening if I'm a vampire. Like, yes, all right, just go sleep here. Dead. Wake up like Peter. Screaming his ass off. Any standout moments for you?
We've listed a bunch of them. I think we listed everything that all the moments that I was thinking of that I wanted to talk about. I mean, there are those weirdly dark, not funny moments that do exist in the film that kind of stand out for me, like specific moments of that hunt of Nick and his girlfriend when he comes to the house. Other than looking into a room where Viago has a blood shower going on, a lot of that moment is very eerie and kind of horror-esque. And then during the nightclub sequence, we meet two girl vampires who Vlad explains to us were
Turned
turned
when they were younger.
when they were kids, so they're forever kids.
Yeah.
And what they do for fun is hunt pedophiles. And then to close out the vampire nightclub scene, to cut from that scene, we get like a 20-second silent, like almost security camera POV of a random guy getting led into an alleyway and then fucking
murdered.
So there are those like oddly kind of dark, kind of horror. I could see why they felt like they needed to put that in
this movie, because they are vampires at the end of the day. They're like, yeah, they're goofy vampires, they're quirky, you got your whole like ha ha ha. These are still fucking vampires. Same thing with like the werewolves. Like the werewolves, they were full of jokes, but they're like, motherfucker, y'all better fucking run because we're werewolves. And sure enough, once they finally did turn, one of the cameramen just straight up died.
Yeah.
And they're like, nope. And Stu almost died, but they decided to turn him instead. And they're like, and I like how he caused peace between the two. And they're like, we didn't know who he should go with Stu to this vampire's house because they're fucking vampires and we clearly have hated them all movie. But it's Stu, so we gave it a shot. And the same thing with the vampires. Yeah, the house smells like fucking werewolf now, but you know, Stu said we should give him a shot, and we found some new friends.
Gotta love Stu.
Yeah, he's just a really cool dude. I'm like, I feel like I've seen him in other stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Stu is played by Stu Rutherford.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've seen him in other things. It might just be like, haha, I am quintessentially white guy. So yes, you've seen me in everything without seeing me in anything.
And looks like he has only been in every single Taika Waititi movie. So you have literally, you've I don't know what random part he was in Thor.
Fair. Yeah, because I have no idea. But he looked familiar, but like I said, it might just be me being...
Oh, he wasn't on camera for Thor Ragnarok. The only film that you may have potentially seen him in. He was actually the technical director in the visual effects department for Thor Ragnarok.
Huh.
So he's probably more on Taika's behind the scenes team, and maybe Taika forced him into the Stu role.
Might be like a good buddy, and he's like, you know what? Or he might be like that in real life. He might literally just be a guy that everyone gets along with.
Right.
And so he's like, fuck it, let's make we're writing our own movie. Let's fucking put Stu in here as himself, just the guy everybody
what do we call
likes. He's just the guy everybody like. Hey, Stu's a solid name for a movie character.
Which would lead me into, if you would play a role in this film, who are you? Who is most attractive to you? A lot of juicy, fun parts.
There are
that aren't really race specific.
No, I what I was gonna say. Yeah, like Vladislav.
Vladislav could be is kind of that's kind of Eastern European slash Transylvania potentially.
Hence the laughter when I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, but Vladislav is still a fun role, like just to kind of play. Stu, obviously, werewolf. Damn, it probably easier to find roles that don't want to play, which even then.
I feel like there's a lot of fun, doable parts in this movie. Like even the two cops that show up at one point.
Just oblivious to everything going on, even if they shouldn't be. Just like, oh, and the constant fake out of them figuring something out because Viago says early on that, oh, I'm not good with hypnosis, so it can wear off at any moment. So you keep getting these fake outs of them being like, pointing to the guy on the ceiling. You see what I see? Yeah. Yeah, no smoke detector. Or they're right next to Peter's burnt. They see the dead body of the dude. And they're like, "Why you got him sleeping like this? He's under concrete. He's got the so and so. You should probably be more careful with your guests." Or did they see Peter's burnt corpse and they're like, "Oh my God, what is that? You got a fire hazard over here. You got a fucking this attached to it, this attached to it, this." I'm like, "Oh my God, stop. Oh my God, stop with the fake outs," but in a good way.
Right.
Because I also like, for lack of a better term, I'm going to say dead horse humor, in the sense that you beat a dead horse until it's funny. The colloquialism, not the, Godfather, which we watched last movie, form of dead horse humor.
Very funny movie.
But you get my point. Like, I do that. That, like, people have asked me, like, "Why don't you do so and so so?" I'm like, because generally one of my forms of comedy that I go to is I will keep repeating a joke at you until you find it funny, because it's just an Omari thing to do. It's like, "No, this isn't funny, but I don't think you understand. I've listened to this man for the past 15 years, and he has not stopped saying this. I wear you down." No, so...
Wellington Paranormal. That's the other show that follows the two police officers.
Gotcha. And yeah, I probably will have to look into more Taika Waititi stuff, I will say, because this is good. But as far as roles I play, the role I would probably want to play the most... Well, the one I would want to play the most is Vlad. But again, that's quite clearly gotta have at least have the accent down.
Yeah.
Gotta at least have the accent down. You could be black and Transylvanian. It's highly unlikely, but
it's possible.
I at least know a guy whose name, while not Vladimir, contains all the same. You switch two of the letters, and it's pretty much Vladimir, and he's black, darker skinned than me. So you can do that.
There's two black baseball players right now in the majors named Vladimir.
There you go. So it can be doable, but that would probably be the most fun, just because he's that guy. He's got the funny. He's got the one-liners, and he just comes in, and he's just like, say this, Vladimir the poker. And the way he eyebrow rolls, like, you get it? And then later when he's like, on Facebook, you can wave to her, you can poke her. Yes.
Or like you said, you can see a lot of the humor points coming from Ragnarok now. Mm-hmm. For instance, we got a very similar scene of, "And here is my torture chamber." Like, there's a running theme of Taika's characters presenting something and then standing there in silence for a good couple of beats to huh?
The second I saw that, early on, I'm like, okay, that's what kind of movie this is. And when you told me he was Korg, I was like, oh, I can definitely see it. Just the way Korg delivered his lines, especially the one about the pamphlets and the revolution.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Yeah, I tried to start a revolution, but didn't print enough pamphlets, so nobody showed up." And there you go. I'm like, that's like something straight out of this movie. Yeah, we were trying to do something, but oopsies, that fucked up. Here we are.
For me, I think the role best for me is Stu. I think I could do a Stu. If I don't do a Stu, I could try and do a Deacon. I don't know if I could do a Vlad, and I think you could do a better Viago than me.
I was gonna say the role best for me would probably be Viago.
Yeah.
Viago followed by a Stu, just because, despite what I may think of myself at times, the general vibe I get from people is that I'm kind of a Stu type dude. where, you know, everybody's like, oh, Omari, yeah, Omari's cool. We like Omari. Like, I'm not blind. I don't let my self-esteem blind me to reality entirely.
Or lack thereof.
Yes, my self-esteem levels, regardless of where they are. But again, someone told me this in middle school. It was a teacher when I tried to diagnose myself, or it's either middle school or freshman year of high school, when I tried to diagnose myself with low self-esteem. And they're like, the mere fact that you try to wear your low self, you come forth and tell people you have low self-esteem. They're like, you don't actually have low self-esteem. And there's other things where, like, someone was trying to tell me I was egotistical. I'm like, I'm not that egotistical though. I don't blow myself up in front of people, whatever. So I was like, dude.
He says, sitting in front of a face of himself.
Dude,
blown up.
You have literally a face of yourself behind you when you're on screen. You have 2 t-shirts, not one. 2 t-shirts.
2 color options.
With 2 different color options with that same fucking photo on it. You put that face everywhere you do. It's like, you can say you don't have an ego all you want, but you kind of have an ego.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't like this isn't www, but I mean, we're talking about a dude who I have seen on multiple occasions, on more occasions than I could count, enter a classroom, stand on a chair, and present something to the room, whether it a sign declaring himself the ugliest and himselfest of them all, whether it be a declaration that he has decided about himself or his life that he wanted us all to know,
or just a sign just had just simple 2 words: ugly power.
Ugly power.
I remember you telling me that was one of your first impressions of me, as I was just the dude with the fucking ugly power sign, whatever the fucking
well, because I feel like it wasn't immediate. The lunch table that I ate with, it either wasn't immediate that you were sitting there.
It wasn't
with Eric and Andrew. Okay, or it wasn't immediate that you and I were connecting at that table.
It's a little,
but yeah, until we started connecting at lunch, I knew you as the guy, because you had at least one class where you did it right next to me, and then I've been in several classes
I can see
where
that.
I was in the room with you.
I know the sign
But
stopped
we
once I went to high
shared
school,
at least
but
one
middle
room.
school, that was definitely. And this isn't www, so I won't get into the full mechanics behind I still know my thought process behind why that happened the way it did at Cross Keys, because I had an agenda with it all. Because of the way I think, and I've mentioned it before, I picture my life. I don't actually picture my life as a TV show 24/7, but there is always at least that kind of lens applied to certain situations where it's just, all right, I need to make a life decision.
You got main character energy.
What would Omari the character do? Okay, this, which probably didn't help with the self-esteem, because if you see yourself in a certain light and you don't feel everybody else sees you in that exact same light, that can warp your perception of how everybody else sees you, even if they see you favorably. Anyhow,
astute, sir.
Yes. Anyhow, before we get into, therapy time with Omari, that whole comment where they're like, men would rather make a podcast than see a therapist. I saw that comment recently.
I mean, making a podcast is free, bitch.
Like, we've gotten to a point to where a man would rather make a podcast than seek therapy. Damn right.
Because we gotta get groceries.
Gotta get groceries. Two, I don't really necessarily need therapy, and I'd rather let the people who legit...
Nobody really thinks they do.
I'd rather let the people who legit have mental health issues... I'm not taking up day appointment time.
Right, but you're not taking up anybody's... I mean, again, not to have this be therapy with Omari. I just can't be in the same virtual room as somebody declaring those kind of things and not and not retort.
Fair.
You're not going to take up anybody's appointment time. There's more therapists than there are ever people trying to get therapy. So don't ever worry about that. And then secondly, almost nobody thinks they need therapy. It's you're paying someone to just be a sounding board for you to just spit words to, and eventually something comes out that's like, oh shit, because you just have to spit words for so long, like in doing a podcast where you come through a lot of self-realization things, but you can be, zero filtered and all of that. You're literally that's how, when I've done therapy, that's how I've considered it, is like,
Fair.
I am buying this person's time to just feed my shit to, and I'm not going to be concerned about sounding a certain way or coming off a certain way because they're just doing their job right now, and I'm just going to spit words at them, and it's often very very
fair. And I that is also me.
But it also requires money.
Yes, it does. But me saying I don't need therapy is also not a knock to anybody who does. I want to go ahead and state that out there.
Yeah, and I don't think you are, but I just think you're wrong.
Fair.
That almost everybody needs therapy, and I definitely think you do.
I'm fine.
But it shouldn't be as expensive as it is, and as hard to access as it is, and that's just the unfortunate part about it.
Fair enough. But yeah, that whole throwing stuff off the wall and then just ending up at a spot like that. Like, we're just talking about a character in a vampire mockumentary, and then suddenly, remember back in school?
Right. Weren't we talking about a movie? That's fine. This episode
awesome.
Needed to be stretched out a little bit to get to an hour.
We're talking about Stu, and Stu is awesome. And I would like, that's another role I would like. The two main roles that I think would be good for me in this movie are, much like yourself, Stu's one of them. And then the other one, I would say Viago was probably the best.
Yeah, mine would be Stu number one, and then probably, I guess, Deacon, or I'll start falling down to some minor characters. Like, I'd love, if I was a working actor, to be able to have a day of coming in and doing that male policeman. That would have been fucking great.
Yeah.
That would have been great to do that.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many bad roles in this movie. I don't really want to be Deacon just because I don't want to be that kind of dude, but I could do it.
No, yeah, he's the least fun of all of them to play.
Exactly, but there aren't any bad roles as far as I'm concerned with this. Even though you don't like Nick at times, there are times where Nick is hilarious.
Yeah. For sure. And he brings you Stu.
And he brings in Stu. It's like, you may not like me, but I brought the guy you did like. Another trope of mine in real life. So you know what, Nick, let's put him on there. It's like, you know what? Lots of people like me, but if you don't, guess what? I know too many people because a lot of people like me. You'll like one of these people. Now you're stuck with me. And now I can wear you down like the dead horse that I beat with these jokes until you find me funny, damn it. Anyhow. Yeah, so I guess I know I have a section in my notes for songs because we've done a couple musicals.
The opening title is great. The title, it's not the title song.
Yeah, but you're dead. The
great song.
I love it.
It's a great song.
It's
been on a Spotify playlist of mine for quite a long time.
I should add it to mine, in all honesty. But yeah, I saw it last night and it was fantastic. I enjoyed the movie. I guess I'll go right into final thoughts with myself first. Final thoughts. Did I bother typing anything out? Of course not. I didn't type anything out for role I play either. But I enjoyed this movie, as you guys can probably tell.
We freeform on this show, baby.
I do a little of both.
We go it off the cuff.
Clearly.
Ain't taking no notes.
I do. I take them. I seldom follow them. Or I'll type shit like...
I'll usually do like 2 sentences.
Or I'll type shit like I can't remember it and then not remember why I typed it. Lol. LOL. But yeah, final thoughts. I enjoyed the movie.
Glad you've seen it.
Yeah, much like some of the things on here, I could see myself rewatching it. Not necessarily in a hurry to. I think the one thing that we've watched that I've actually since we've started this had kind of a slight urge to rewatch was fucking Bloodsport. Because when we watched another movie, Highlander.
You wanted to watch a better 80s
Highlander action. Made me want to rewatch Bloodsport. I ended up rewatching Wanted because a couple days after our review, someone turned it on at work.
Right.
And I'm like, should we be watching this at work? Whatever. It's America. People don't care about R-rated violence. They only care about nudity.
There's titties in that movie too.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. We don't care about violence in this country. We just care about excessive nudity.
Pretty much. There's like, but I saw someone turn off a movie where it's just like literally like one. I saw someone like watching Titanic, and then when she's like, "Paint me like your French girls," they turned it off. They're like, "Oh no, nakedness," and I'm like, but. That's not the point of the movie. It's literally like a minute, if that.
And we're all like, is anybody concerned that one of us is going to start jerking off?
Yeah, right. I'm like, the
minimum, I think we're all good.
Minimum age to work here is 18. Everybody's an adult. I would assume that at least the majority of them have had sex. You can't assume everybody over the age of 30 has had sex, but the hefty majority you can. So I'm sure they know what the opposite sex looks like, or the same sex for that matter. Also, it's like 2 minutes. Come on now. Now, if they're straight up fucking, yeah, okay.
Right, like don't throw Game of Thrones on there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, you like the movie, I would assume.
Yes, I do. Like I've spoiled a little bit earlier on. It does diminish with me each time. When I first saw this, I loved it. But there have, and others would argue, but I believe there's been better versions made in the recent years. But overall, I really enjoy it. I really love Taika's sensibilities and timing on things, and it's a really enjoyable watch.
I agree.
I would recommend, if you enjoyed this, I have a few recommendations.
All right.
That I won't add to future hasn't seen episodes because it would kind of be a retread of this same conversation.
Gotcha.
You have the spin-offs of this movie, which we've talked about. What We Do in the Shadows. I very much enjoy that show and would highly recommend it to anyone. And then the Wilmington Paranormal. And then you have Taika's future catalog, which is The Hunt for the Wilder People.
Okay.
The Thor movies, obviously. And then his Oscar winner, Jojo Rabbit.
Gotcha.
I haven't seen the new Thor movie, but excluding the Thors because we know you've seen them.
I've not seen the new one, but I saw Ragnarok.
Right. But Hunt for the Wilder People and Jojo Rabbit are very good movies.
Okay. Probably check one of those out.
Don't.
What? Don't check one of those out?
Don't do it.
Oh. Okay. Look, it was a problem to begin with, though. And that's nothing against Taika Waititi. I actually have enjoyed all of the work of his I've seen so far. It's just working on various other things. That is one thing I love about this, is it lets me watch stuff and experience new things. Because in this modern age where, whether it's being on the screen or working, with the editor or whatever for said things that I'm on screen for, a lot of my time has been taken up that I could be enjoying new things.
And you still do edit on occasion too, as well, right? I mean, you have the editor, but sometimes his workload is a little...
True.
Is a little full.
Yeah, sometimes. Like
you got a full plate. You got a full plate.
Yes. And
in addition to YouTube not being a job, yeah.
Yeah, YouTube. Yeah, if I got paid for YouTube, completely different story. Let's go. Zip boom straight to the moon. I ain't complaining about nothing. But we ain't there yet. Nonetheless, so we are gonna have obviously this train's gonna keep on rolling, and so next week I believe is my turn to suggest something once again, and I've decided to go with another thing in the yeah. Awesome. I love the hand for the added effect. Yes, next week I believe it's my turn to suggest something again, and I decided to go also with the comedy variety that may not necessarily be for everybody, but I still think people should give it a shot.
British humor.
Oh, not British humor.
Not British humor.
No.
But is it British humor that's not British?
I don't think so. It is Keenan Ivory Wayans'. I'm gonna
not British.
I'm gonna get you, sucker. And yeah, obviously everyone knows the Wayans, from. And
very cool.
Yeah, and we know they have tons of parody movies out there. I'm gonna get you, sucker is one of the earlier entrances into this whole venture of theirs. Not sure if it predates or coincides with a release time of In Living Color, but it's a very much...
In Living Color had a long lifespan, longer than people remember. So
that's why I said I'm not sure.
Yeah. That's tough to nail down.
But
it's just like it was like, was it pre-90s?
I'm not sure. It's a
the
parody.
Start of In Living Color.
Oh, the start of In Living Color?
Right. Was that like 88 to 94?
I'd say 88 at the earliest. Because I don't think it could have been
was it
that
like
much
90?
early. I want to feel like
like
it's
96?
I feel
94?
like it was like early 90s.
Weird.
But
right.
nonetheless,
Yeah.
it's a parody of, 70s blaxploitation films.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is maybe, wow, the second film you ever named. Way back when we started this thing, months ago. This was maybe the second film title on your list of movies Bill hasn't seen.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of anticipating this one. I'm glad we're gonna get to do it.
Yeah, and it's one of those films that, as a kid, just thoroughly enjoyed. And the crazy part is, as an adult, I feel like I saw the TV edit of this film, because I've seen clips when I've been older. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, in a good way. But yeah, we'll get into it next week. You guys want to watch it, you'll find it out there, probably on Amazon Prime Video, because apparently that's where everything is now. Every time we try to suggest something, that's where I found the last few things. I'm like, oh, okay, well, at least Amazon Prime Video has it. But
yeah, I have for this one. I have an old copy of the
DVD. Gotcha.
Going out on a high seas adventure.
Yeah.
So that's what I pulled from this time.
Fair. Got it. Yeah, yo. If you know, you know. But yeah, if you want to catch me anywhere else, let's wrap it up. Exactly.
I don't know. Let's wrap it up.
I'll tell you off camera. Anyway, so If you want to find me elsewhere on this channel, you can find me here, obviously. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube under the Whatever We Want podcast with new episodes every week, every Wednesday. I do the man Super Jazz.
Super Jazz.
We've even got Bill on an episode or two. Maybe just one. Only one at the moment that's released. Anyway, the bottom line
Only
is...
one that's recorded, too, or scheduled.
Well, you
I don't know what
mean.
you're talking about.
But I'm leaving the potential out there. Who knows when they watch this episode?
This is how Omari asked me to do another episode.
Bottom line is, yes, you can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter and Twitch under Giotavi. That is Giotavi. Come on in. Stop on by. Bill, you got anything to say to the folks out there?
No.
All right. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Adios, miss.